Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. We have a busy week in front of us, and I've got my main man, BigBeat, in town. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm good, Howard. It was a good weekend. Look, I think Friday was a rough day in the markets. I think we talked about that early in the morning, right? That we had a lot of options coming off, and they did it right around the middle of the afternoon, probably around noon, and then kept on doing it all day in the afternoon. And we saw that. We didn't like it. But what did I do? I bought the QQQs on the near the close, about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I kept buying, rolling. I'm going to roll them over to today, as everybody knows. I did that on Friday, and I'm going to continue to stay long. I think the sell-off was overcooked, and I like this sell-off here.
Nice. Yep. I bought MicroStrategy, as you know, at a little under 300 on Friday. Also, it has moved up. I did see news already. I said that we would see it over the weekend or going into Monday.
Yeah.
They did raise the $2 billion with no issues, zero convertible debt. So nice little move up here by MicroStrategy so far this morning. We'll see if that can continue. Steve, gold, I think we got to start there a little bit, right? We heard news from our man Peter Thomas over the weekend. It's trying to break 200. It just broke an all-time high. Was getting ready to do that. He said 4 major trades really moved the needle here.
Yes, I mean, if you think about it, we've been talking about it for how long now, that gold should go higher and higher and higher, and I think it will continue to go higher. We're going to break 3,000. We've talked about 3,000. I've said 3,000. I can't tell you how many times here on the show. And we're going to do that. But when you heard Trump and Elon Musk talking about together, they're going to walk into Fort Knox. There's some chances that there might not be some gold
on the way out.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised either one of them takes a little trinket home for themselves.
I know I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, do they give free samples? Is it like the mint when you used to go as a kid and they'd give you the old money in a little vial? Remember? You ever
shoot it up? Yeah, right.
Yeah, so gold is moving up nicely here. Silver, though, stalled out at that 33. Steve pulled back a little bit, trying to move up here today, but again, just doesn't seem to be able to get across that 33 and hold. We tried 3 straight days last week, unable to do it. So that's still my sort of key there to watch when it comes to silver. Nat gas has dropped down over the weekend, Steve. It's getting warmer here. I still have a sweatshirt on today, but we're supposed to hit almost 50 here in Ohio. So I'm very excited about that. The main driver, though, on it seems to be UK natural gas. They are having warmer and windier weather, which is cutting demand. Not much else there. It's sort of in no man's land at $4 here. But again, if you shorted it when Steve said on Friday at 450, that's a nice little move down from 450 here all the way down to $4. So definitely looking good there. Indices look set to open up about a 0.5 percentage point, 50 basis points here. Both the SPY and QQ, fairly similar levels pre-market here. Do you think they get some win today, or do we see an early morning sell-off as soon as we get to the cash markets?
Look, I said I'm long QQQ. I've got short dated calls, negative calls. Look, I still think I like it here. The sell-off was a real rough on Friday, and we're gonna go higher. Look, there might be some profit taking. There always is. People freak out. But no, I like this here. I think the sell-off was a little rough, and it was based on options. It wasn't based on anything else. And this is where education comes in, right? I think a lot of those options that were peeled off didn't roll over, right? If they had rolled them over or understood how to roll them over, I think they would have been. I think the problem was they got liquidity. I mean, they just lost all that liquidity in the market, right? And they just screwed everybody over. So no, I don't think so. I'm long, and I'm going to stay long. And I get it. It stairs up, elevator down. That's what seems to be the problem right now. But when you see this markets are all-time highs, and you see all these problems around the world, there was a lot of concern over the weekend about Germany. I think that's one of the things we have to talk about is the election. And that's now over. There wasn't I know that the media is starting to say that it was a right-wing win, and it really wasn't.
It was a centrist win.
it was pretty much a centrist win. I agree with that.
It was a win for me finally.
Yeah. I think a
Yeah,
win for a
as I've
lot of
talked about,
people.
I fall right in the middle. I am what we call a Kennedy Democrat here in the United States. Grew up in Boston, and we are socially Democrat, fiscally Republican, would be the way that I describe
Southern
that.
Democrat, yeah. I mean, look, I think a lot of people don't really understand that the German elections are a little bit different, right? It's a normal European country where they have to form a
Coalitions.
government, yeah, and you're going to see the center come together a little bit more, right?
Right. The center and the center left are coming together here, and
Yeah.
they're sort of saying to the right, well, we have some of your policies we don't want. And it'll be interesting because if Merz can hold up the borders, I think he'll be able to keep this going. But that's going to be what you watch sort of in Germany, like we've done here in the US. It's a lot of it's about immigration when it comes to the right wing. They think that there's a lot of problems there. We've seen a lot of issues, especially with Muslims in Germany, right? Starting some issues. So we'll see how that works out. We'll talk to Stephen Flanagan here at 10 o'clock, see what he thinks. It didn't really move. DXY did not move all that much, quite honestly, still at that 106.61 level. It did drop down during the election yesterday or overnight, but it's bounced right back to that same level. So not much there. I think a lot of things this week. We have the two biggest things I'm looking at, Steve, is NVIDIA has earnings on Wednesday, right? So we'll be keeping an eye on that. I think that will drive tech sector one way or the other. And then we know that we have some economic data, but more specifically, we have PCE at the end of the week, right? Which is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. So we'll keep a look at that. Tomorrow, I know we have one of your favorites, the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. Yeah. So we'll be able to see going on there. I do think home prices seem to be coming more and more to the front, right? To Main Street, not just to Wall Street right now. So we'll see if that moves at all. Anything else in general you caught your eye over the weekend, Steve? My big ones, I had a couple of them. One of them was having to do with eggs. Eggs versus chicken, to me, is the big question of sort of the time here. I thought it was funny. It's like the egg versus that. But it's a pretty big one in that there's sort of a fight going on between the U.S.-based egg companies and Tyson's and Pilgrim, which are both foreign-owned, but the largest chicken manufacturers in the country.
We talked about that on Friday, right? Look, Tyson's Food. If you thought that was the case, TSN. You look at the perspective of eggs in the future, right? Where are we, right? Where are we in this whole process? And you can see Tyson's Food has jumped. I mean, if you were looking for the place to go, there it is, right? This is not a stock that usually moves in big swaths like that. But that was part of it, right? And chicken and eggs. I mean, the old adage, right?
Yeah, and just to clarify for people what it is most of the world doesn't allow vaccines and antibiotics to be used in food production. And as I said, there's about $5 billion in exports on a yearly basis of chicken out of the U.S. We are one of the major chicken producers and own both Tyson's and Pilgrim that I pulled up here. PPC are owned by non-U.S. entities. So they're very concerned about it.
It's amazing to me, Howard, that these farmers who are against the vaccines are for their okay with their chickens getting vaccinated.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think you're talking to the farmers. These aren't farmers. The egg farmers are saying they need vaccines because they can't just keep on killing their entire herd, you would call it, their flock. On a weekly or bi-weekly basis like they've had to, and $8 eggs are not sustainable. So we'll see how it comes out here, but it's definitely a problem. We know that our man Jeremy Vreeland has had some illness due to that too, so it's definitely getting more to the forefront. MLGO and WRD, big two winners so far today. We know MLGO is still based upon NVIDIA's investment into that company. The one that's interesting to me is WeRide, Steve. They in a quick amount of time have gone from a startup company to a company that has gotten approval for driverless driving in Beijing. They're going to get paid unmanned rides. So the first ones to happen in China. I think it's a pretty big deal for them personally, and they're up to 27.88 here on that news, up about 13%.
Yeah, when you look at Serge Brin and the team at Google, and you look at Microsoft, and you look at those teams that were working on these projects, they all said one thing: well, we don't expect to have driverless vehicles until 2030. I never believed that. I mean, I always believed that we'd have it way before then. And look, we need to keep up with technology. We're being, this is exactly what's happening. This is why we don't need to be a nationalistic country. We need to have these partnerships with other countries, because with the technology we have, the technology they have, we should be sharing that technology to make the world a better place. And it's not happening, right? Let's tear up the hell out of them, right? No, that's not the right way to handle this, right? Yeah, they may be beating us in export-import business. But on the XM side of things, we need to work on the technology side. And, driverless taxis are what people really, really want. And here we go.
You think they want them in the U.S. as much? I mean, we know Japan loves them.
Can't wait.
They're big on it, and they want to use them. And I think China, again, that they'll want to use them. I just wonder how many people in the U.S. I've heard just as many friends tell me they wouldn't use them when it was sent to them in cities like Houston.
I can't tell you how many people that told me that they would never use the internet because it was a stupid thing. I've heard people say that they'll never use a cell phone. We go back that far.
Absolutely.
All right. Because it's going to put a chip in my head. I mean, I've heard so many dumb conspiracy theories all my whole life that it just, I like, okay, whatever. And here's another one, right? We'll all be riding around in driverless cars, period. Anybody thinks they're not going to be in the next 4 or 5 years, okay, whatever. I've heard, I'll always have a car that has gasoline in it. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that I just saw 2 gasoline new pumps come into my area, and half of them are electric, right? That we're changing over, right? The world is changing maybe faster than they want. Sorry to tell you, the technology is moving faster. But when we look at it from that perspective, we cannot be behind the 8 ball here. We've got to stay above it. And China is doing that, right? But we know that Waymo and Google is working on this. We know that there are car companies that are doing this. That's right. Right. And Elon Musk is working on a driverless car. So sorry. This is what we're doing, and we're going this direction, and eventually that car will take you to Mars if you want to go. I mean, these companies and these people are thinking about the future. The people who think I'm not going to do that are not thinking about the future. They're thinking about right now, and that's a problem, right? I heard from so many people that I'll never use ChatGPT. I'll never use that. 42% of people right now are using it, and 96% of people under the age of 25 are now using it in their businesses, right? That's high. I mean, that is outrageously high, and that's why all these companies are working on AI. And guess what? AI is going to be in these vehicles. So
yeah, that number is a little misleading because they're counting Gemini using your regular Google.
Yes, all of the AI. They'll be using some type of AI.
That's a tough one because people.
They're using some type of AI in the business. But 98%, that's super high, right?
Ron Williams came through, just said, "I've never used ChatGPT." He was actually hitting me up over the weekend for my.
I'm sorry, Ron. Are you 25 years or younger?
Yeah, no. But again, he doesn't use it, but he was a guy who was doing the right thing. He wanted to learn more. He asked me questions.
Yeah, exactly.
He wants to examine them and find out which ones are better. And, was sort of asking if I use one for once or how I use them and stuff. So he wants to learn, but I do think that you're crazy if you're not, and the same with, hand-free driving and all that. It's coming whether or not you want it.
It's tough. I get it. It makes people nervous. I get it. My car parks itself in the garage by itself. My car parks itself everywhere, right? And it's tough taking your hand off the steering wheel. I mean, for some people, right? Not for me. I mean, let's do this.
Yeah, it's funny how difference goes. Yeah, as you know, I was an early adopter before.
Yes,
hand-free came out. I had that adaptive cruise control when it first came out, and I drove all the way to Florida with you without touching my gas or my brake one day from DC. I told you all I did was set it and forget it and just follow the cars in front of me. So I've been an early adopter. Steve, talk about technology improvements and the future. Hopefully, one of the biggest gainers today is SMMT, Summit Therapeutics. They have come out with a big break in cancer research, teaming up with Pfizer. We've talked about this. Some of these smaller companies, their best way to get to market in the way that it's needed is by partnering with the Pfizers, the Mercks, the big names out there. But they have teamed up to study. I'm not going to try to say the first name. I'm going to call them ADCs, which are used for solid tumors to help use them. They're going to start trials mid this year. So very excited to see that. And their stuff outperformed Keytruda in lung cancer. So a big bad one and working in that way. So happy to see that sum it up about 4.79%, was up as much as 7% earlier. It has faded back a little bit.
Yes, that's exactly right. When we talk about this, I mean, gosh, talk about this now for months now, and it's coming true. That when you look at the pharmaceuticals coming up, the what I call the novel therapeutics, drugs that are not going after the major things like cancer, you're starting to see those a little bit less and less now. The novel therapeutics are going after bigger problems like weight loss, like cancer, like
lung cancer,
COPD, things that affect a large amount of people. And I'll tell you something else that I think that you should be looking at are drugs in the Alzheimer's and aging area too as well. Absolutely. And what they're doing is these companies that are getting these major breakthroughs are partnering with companies like Pfizer and Merck because they already have the line. They already know how to distribute it. They already know how to manufacture. They know how to reproduce it. They've already got them. Pfizer may not be making the next big drug. Merck may not. They are, but it's easier for them to just mergers and acquisitions.
Partner, like you've always talked about that when it came to drugs. I remember you talking about that during COVID, how certain manufacturers like Novavax, I don't even know if they're in business anymore, would maybe get the answer, but wouldn't be able to, produce it at the levels needed and would need partnerships. So we saw that. Hey, I know you are going to be on Schwab tomorrow talking about a stock that you've been down on lately, but I think that you are changing your mind on. NKE Nike, which is having a nice day, up 2.61%. Got an upgrade from Jeffries over the weekend.
Yeah, they beat me to it. I'm getting ready. I was going to talk about Nike on Tuesday of last week, and I didn't get to it. But if you're looking for a value play and you're looking for a company that's been beaten up and you're looking for a growth play, it's not easy to find them, right? Value and growth. And value meaning the price is lower than the worth of the company. And growth meaning that there's something coming new and there's a new way of presenting it. Okay, so let's talk about this. Nike, NKE, three things going on. The first reason I'm going to pick it for, and I think the big one is they have a new tennis shoe that I really like, and I'm going to get one myself. It's called the DN8. It is one that has the cushions on the bottom of their shoes all the way across. Now, I remember when the cushions came in the back with a squishy, and I loved that because it was much more comfortable as a shoe. But it had problems in the back that it would blow out after about, almost 6 months or whatever after using them. But I'll tell you the big thing that I really like about the new Nike is that they are expanding past Michael Jordan, moving into more basketball, moving into more other sports as well, and in golf. It's been Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods for so long. This time around, they're going with a couple new things. The first thing is they're going to direct to consumer through their Nike app and Nike website. And they have the new app called Sneakers, SNKRS. And that app has been pretty popular. But here's the big thing. They're now trying to go after a huge, bigger section, swath of people. And that's through, whether you like her or not, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian has 75.8 million followers on X.
And whether you like her or not, influencer there is, without a doubt.
There's no bigger influencer than Kim Kardashian, right? And they partner with Kim. And look, she's already doing shows with Nike. It's about to be good. And the brand is brand. You cannot say the word Nike anywhere around the world and not understand it's a shoe, a quality shoe that stood the test of time. And I will say this much. This new shoe, DN8, they're also making it where it's several colors that you can wear in any way you want to wear it, whether that's into the public for on the court or you want to wear it to a fancy place. And they've also set the ability to make your own shoe, your own colors. So this is one that I really like. I really like Nike. I liked it a little bit a week ago when I started to get my homework together. But now here we go, and I think that Jeffries is right. I think this is a big value play, and I think you could push up. If you pull up a weekly chart on Nike, you'll see exactly what I mean. This thing was 170, 180. Today it's at 78. So I think there's a good chance here of pushing right back up, especially if Jeffries is right.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Nike. I do think it's a good company. I think they're where I would worry, and we'll see how that works, is they've sort of been stuck with, are they a fashion brand or are they an athletic apparel brand?
Yes, the answer is yes, they're both.
Yeah, well, can they be both, though?
Yeah.
That's the question. They've sort of been half pregnant in both. So I think that they've got to make a firmer commitment one way or the other. It's either collabs, it's either collabs that are going to make you your money by partnering up with Travis Scott and Yeezy and all these people and doing fun and cool things like that, or it's producing better sneakers, like you said, for the actual athlete. The guys were, playing in the NFL and NBA, and then that drags down.
That's my point. They're doing both. I think they're doing both.
Yeah, for me, that's what worries me. They've sort of been lost. I'm an early adopter of sneakers. I've had that app for about 5 years, and I've bought one pair of sneakers on it because the only thing it's good for is drops. Their whole thing is about these individual drops and everything. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make a comeback and get in there. I'd like to see him try to make a move into, as you said, the dress-up sneakers. That's where they missed out, in my opinion. You have all these brands that have come about, and most of us, like you and I, no longer wear loafers as much. I wear a nice pair of shoes, but I'm using Cole Haan and these other brands that were there first. Nike hasn't made them. I would buy a Nike version. I haven't seen it yet.
That's what I'm saying. The new DN8 has ability to make color that makes it comfortable for you to be in a more business setting.
Yeah, that's where I think they've been lacking. So hopefully they'll do that. Hopefully we see some ads based around that. I mean, you can look and see the companies that, like Rob Gronkowski has worked with, Tom Brady and some of those guys. Those have taken off and left Nike sort of in behind them. Nice move up by Oracle today, 3.58% here, Steve. So after the big meltdown on Friday, we do see Oracle starting to get a little bit of love here today. I was actually reading up on Larry Ellison's agriculture business in Sensei AG over in Lanai. Interesting little thing over the weekend that I was reading up on. We'll see how that plays out. As we are also looking here at this, let's go to the Mag 7 a little bit, Steve. NVIDIA up nicely pre-market. We got earnings on Wednesday, we know, at 136.70. You and I are both long-term on NVIDIA. Nothing's changed over the weekend and changed my thesis. Anything to you there, Steve?
No, and I've been asked several times, look, NVIDIA's earnings come down on Wednesday. Will I be holding long? Yes. Am I heavy? Yes. Am I not concerned? Yeah, I'm not concerned at all. I think they're going to blow out the earnings. It's whether or not they have great guidance, I don't know. And whether or not people go, oh, well, it's not good enough. It's silly. NVIDIA is the AI capital of the world, and it will continue to be. And I'll tell you, the chipsets are getting better and better and better. And, we already know that DeepSeek, whatever it is, it's not changing the world at all, right? We already know that already. And some of the, I guess, claims that they had made are not quite coming to fruition. I will say that it is interesting over the weekend. If you want to talk about NVIDIA and AI, and that's x.com with Grok. Grok 3 came out over the weekend, and it's pretty good. And I'm sorry, Elon Musk is saying it's the greatest thing since a slice of bread. I don't think that's the case. They're all about the same. In fact, Grok 3 over the weekend said that, said very negative things against the administration and against Elon itself. It's like, wait a minute. There's still some problems in Grok. But when you look at it, it doesn't matter what AI it is. It's still NVIDIA chipset, right? It's still these servers that need to be worked in the back end, quantum computing and all of that. The Blackwell chipset, as we all know. And I think that we're going to find out on Wednesday just how good the sales were and how good the RTX 5090 was, and the new chipset that goes into computers. I can't wait to get one, if I can even get one. We know they're already sold out. They're making it as fast as possible. So yeah,
absolutely. Across the Mag 7, 6 of the 7 nicely up so far today. Apple, the big loser so far, down almost a full percentage point here. We know it moved up most of last week after they announced the SE phone for their new iPhone, a cheaper version, but they are the ones that are moving down. Steve Flanagan saying he likes Grok 3. He teched in there, said all this tech advancements are great support tools to provide an easier life, and that he uses Grok 3, and it is very good. I will point out, some people were asking me, again, Ron was over the weekend, I pointed out, if you already are a premium owner of a premium user of X, you get Grok built into that.
That's correct. Yeah, we already get Grok. Yeah.
A lot of people haven't. I don't think they've done a good job of telling people that, quite honestly, because now Elon is.
I think the problem is, well, yes, I mean, I'm a premium user on both sides, right? I'm business and personal. And I will say this much, that it's integrated, right? So if you want to ask a question while you're in your Twitter handle, that it's easy to implement, right? And I'm seeing that if you're in X. But there are still some problems. So I can see why they don't want to advertise it just too much yet, because they want to fix those problems before they go widespread. But no, I like Grok. I'm not knocking it. I think it's good. Is it ChatGPT? Yeah, it's probably as good as ChatGPT. Is it as good as Perplexity? No. Is it as good as Gemini? Yes. Anthropic. I mean, I can go through all of them as an AI. Yeah. I mean, as you know, I've been talking about AI for 15 years. So now it's like everybody's talking about AI and everybody's an AI god. But the problem is now is the difference in the large language modeling, LLMs. Are they actually being able to handle us, right? And our different intellects and our different dialects and our different ways of communicating. And Grok hasn't quite got there yet. Perplexity is definitely there. Anthropic is definitely there. ChatGPT, not quite all there yet. So look, we said this several times, Howard, that, when you look at the beginning of the century, right, with cars, and there were 100,000 different car manufacturers, 120. Then we came down to 3 or 4. The same thing's going to happen here, right? We're going to have like 3 or 4 AI companies. I mean, if you think about it,
that win, right? Exactly. Right. I will say I've been playing around with each of them a little bit, and what is frustrating is the amount of, if you ask this ChatGPT the same question 4 times, you will get 4 different answers, and you'll get some bad hallucinations on all of them. And I don't mean just ChatGPT, all of them. I was asking this week, the one that I use a lot to try to see what it says is, what key earnings reports are this week? Give me the top 10 by market cap. And Berkshire Hathaway had earnings on 3 different days from ChatGPT this week. And there was a lot of things like that where
and that's how we at Quasar Market solved that problem, right? We attached the LLMs to the actual databases so that it doesn't hallucinate, right? It's a good example, right? Go to Quasar Markets right now, quasarmarkets.com. Go sign up for a free account. Go check out the AI that's there. We allow you to actually attach your ideas, your thoughts, your question you have to the actual databases so that the machine does not hallucinate. Now, here's something really cool. We've actually built Quasar Markets AI as well. So we actually have an AI that's coming to be attached to the actual AI too as well. So boom, that's good.
Absolutely. Google, you liked Google last week, Steve. Nice little move up today, 1.23%, about a 50%. And what we're seeing in a lot of these is a 50% retracement. Most of them, as you see here, was down 2.7% on Friday, up 1.35% today, but still a nice move up. So we do see people, it looks like sentiment on Friday was extremely negative. Today, people look to be buying that dip, at least in the pre-market. We'll see if that keeps
Well, you can see that it closed the gap. It has to close the gap, finally close the gap. And I'll tell you, there's a gap above right around 205. That's going to have to clean up a little bit too. So look, Google has had its struggles and its problems, and it still is having its struggles and problems. And we just talked about it, right? People are using GPTs more to search than they are Google search, right? Yeah. That's changing very quickly. And the numbers of searches that are going over to AI is starting to become higher than the Google searches. Why? Not just the number of people, but the number of searches, right? Because normally in a Google search, you just do one search and you scroll through everything, right? Whereas in GPTs, you continue to ask questions and ask questions and ask questions. That's the difference of why with the energy question, right?
Yep.
So look, I like Google here. I like Google on a technical basis. I like Google in a lot of ways, but Google needs to start innovating a bit. And we haven't seen that, Elizabeth. I've complained about Apple not innovating, and now I'm complaining about it from the perspective. Here we go, the opening now.
We are open here. Yeah. We are seeing, I want to watch the advanced decline. It was at 28 here in the pre-market, moving down. So we are seeing the first couple of moves to the downside so far, negative 500 or so on the tick. QQQ and SPY were both up about a half a percentage point going into the open. Now they've given up about half of those here.
Retail profit taking, I wouldn't worry about it. Let the kitties take their money
right there. Trying to bounce back up off the lows of the day, 527.40, the low of the day on QQQ. SPY's low of the day at 601.78. So they are both bouncing to the upside slightly. Tick has gone positive here, but advanced decline is moving to the downside and pretty rapidly. Another 100 off right there. We're seeing the tick do it. So we're seeing some profit taking here off the open, not surprising. Steve is still positive on the day. VIX coming down to about 1776 here. So in a little bit of a no man's land again. We like to buy that when it's down at that 15 level, not here at 17 for the inevitable pump towards 20. So I'd be looking to see if that cools off a little bit.
NVIDIA is already back to 138 here. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is, yeah.
Gold 29.42, so coming off the highs of the day and an all-time high, moving down slightly here on the open, trying to find a bottom. Silver, same thing. Silver continuing to slide. Bitcoin at 95,659, holding up okay, but not all that great. Just hit again that 95,400 spot again, so we'll see if it can get it. Tick remaining negative here, advanced decline continuing to tick downwards. So the general market continuing to move to the downside. But with that being said, what is moving up is all the Mag 7 are in the positive here, leading the way so far. NVIDIA, the big winner, up 2.3% so far. So nice move there.
I'm not worried about today. I mean, I think that the whole world's waiting on NVIDIA on Wednesday's earnings. NVIDIA will hold them a whole market up, I think.
Tick still going negative here now, 324, under 1,500 on advanced decline. So
NASDAQ just took off there. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not too concerned about this.
Mag is covering us today so far. We'll tell you what took a big hit here, big sell-off. You're seeing SMMT Summit we just talked about was up 6% in the pre-market, now down 8.73%, dropped right to the 50-day MA here. So it doesn't look like people are selling off versus that news. Definitely looks like a sell-off. The news event, that's an interesting one. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Duolingo that was up nicely. Fang Network Group now down also. They were up pretty well in the pre-market here. Let's see if any of those have moved the other way. Robinhood, I didn't talk about that yet, but Robinhood, similar to what happened with Coinbase on Friday, the SEC has announced that they are not going to go forward with that lawsuit. So we do see that moving the other way here to the upside. As we talked about, and Ron's pointing out, Palantir was taking a pretty big hit earlier this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Palantir last week. I said, no, let it close that gap first. And then you can probably buy it back. They still got the government contracts, but and Palantir has taken a big hit. I mean, it really did too much of a hit because they actually got the government contracts and they're not going to get those things taken away. So I don't know. Elon's not going to pull those away. He can't pull those away. So I don't know.
You got a little bit of a W formation starting here, though, to keep an eye on. If you can get some momentum today, you have a definite chance at a nice W formation here this morning on the hourly chart. I've been watching that since I woke up. It definitely looks pretty good here, but you got to hold this 95, 97 area. If you cannot hold over, actually it's 95.01 is this line in the sand I'd be watching today. If we hold above that, could see a nice move up here. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, you got to look for a close of the gap all the way down to 83, 84 area. So Palantir is definitely going to be a volatile one to keep an eye on today, without a doubt. Others losing ground today. The Chinese stocks definitely getting hit here. JD down 4.67%. PDD, Temu's parent company, down 6% here. Haven't looked at Alibaba yet. Give me 1 second there.
Seeing reports
Yeah,
that
Alibaba down in
Preparing
6%
to
also.
deploy, Tesla's preparing to deploy full self-driving features in China.
Well, you got to assume they're going to try to follow now that that happened. I mean, without a doubt, you would expect that to be the case. Steve, I was reading a little bit again this weekend too. China stocks, which this says is heating up, which it was over the weekend until it dropped today. Billionaire David Tepper has 20% of his money that he manages, which would be over $2 billion in Chinese stocks. Are you surprised by that? He's
No,
really
not
always been a China bug, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He likes going to Hong Kong. He likes going over there to seeing what's going on. And we've talked about this. We talked about this morning. We talked about this last week. Look, China is leading in technology, and they're not stopping. They're not waiting on us. They're not waiting on tariffs. China is big enough to do their own thing, and they're doing it themselves. And we saw that. I mean, we talked about buying Alibaba under $90, and look, here it is. At 88, we were excited about it, right, when it broke. And here you could have gone to 140. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it made a full 3x move to the upside, as you can see here. You know, this was the first measured move, second measured move, third measured move, hit pretty much the top of it. It's pulled back past the 50% retracement here. So now you'd be looking at 124 is the area that I'll be watching here. Any approach on 124 could give you a decent entry here on Alibaba. But you can see here just using measured moves as a technical analysis form looks pretty good. Financials so far look pretty strong today, Steve. JP Morgan up almost a percentage point. Almost all the major stocks up almost a percentage point. Goldman Sachs leading the way up 1.69%. So financials leading the way, which to me means RUT is going to be, actually it's not. RUT is the biggest holder of financials in the U.S. indices. And I thought I would see that up a little more than 9 basis points here. So that's a little surprising. Shows the other components in the RUT are really down when it comes to small cap. Mag 7, we now see Microsoft down almost a full percentage point here. Did have a little news on them, Steve, over the weekend. I saw that they have pulled out of some data centers. I just wanted to bring it up because it's a little bit of misleading news. It did break everywhere, but a lot of, when you broke it down, Mizuho and a couple of the other analyst reports I read on it said that these were basically contracts that hadn't been filled yet. So these were data centers that they looked at both in the U.S., but mostly abroad, internationally, and they decided they're not going to enter into those contracts. So I did see the big headline. It has them down probably a little bit today on that.
Are you telling me that headlines were moving the markets and not actually reading the actual inside the And I think this is where AI actually helps people when they're reading articles, right? And they're not just reading headlines anymore. Algos are reading headlines. They're not reading the inside of the story, right? So the algo was wrong, and they hit Microsoft pretty hard. They hit a couple of companies pretty too hard. It wasn't the reason, right? They just, some of these leases also were leases that were coming up. Maybe they wanted to move to another place, a bigger place, which they did. So
yeah, most of them, as they said, it's not pulling back on data center spending. It's reallocating international spending to the U.S.
That's right. They're actually increasing their spending. So I don't know what the headline was totally wrong. Yeah.
And they're not canceling existing agreements. Like I said, they're walking away from potential leases that they had been interested in. And again, we've had too many, in the market.
And CNBC just now reporting now that as you said, that they are not walking away from. Microsoft tells Jefferies it strongly refutes any change to data center strategy on CNBC. So here you go. First, they're breaking the news for you. Look, it's simple. The spending on AI is going through the roof, and it's not stopping, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It reminds me of when the internet came around. Oh, the internet's just a fad. The internet's a fad. We won't use it. We're only going to use it to look at websites. Well, okay, that didn't happen, right? Today, we can't even imagine. There are people who didn't even live before the internet, right? So those are us. But I want to say right now that AI, as we know it today, won't be the AI in the future. So be prepared. The AI will change drastically over the next 5 to 10 years as it grows and grows and gets smarter and smarter.
Yeah, I fully agree. I want it. Yeah, as you said, it's starting to learn habits of people. The ones that we buy for $20 a month are not doing that yet.
Correct.
And down the road, they will. They'll say, "Okay, Howard, every morning you look at the same 20 articles, by the same 20 writers on Wall Street Journal or on CNBC. Here are those articles for you. You don't have to go look at them to find them." We'll point out, man, advanced decline has gone from 2050 2500, excuse me, in pre-market to now down 185, tick staying negative here. So we do see markets are turning over quickly here. Mag 7 is now about 50-50. Microsoft leading the downward spiral there, down 1.5%, but Amazon slightly down here, and now Meta down slightly. Was kind of cool. I saw one of the first influencers that I I don't know, I wouldn't say follow, but pops up on my feed, was using his Meta glasses to film some stuff out at a restaurant. It was one of those, me, my fat butt likes to look at restaurant reviews. And this guy was he's one of those guys that goes all the fine dining Michelin starred restaurants. He had his Meta glasses on and was showing as they were serving him like a 20-course meal. I thought it was very cool, very interesting. And all he said was, "Meta, start filming." And it literally was doing it off his glasses. So like you said, these changes that are coming are very exciting. They are different than what many people think they are.
And 2 years ago, that would have been a no-no. Restaurants or people would be like, or
yeah. Well, you wouldn't even know. The only thing you'd only know if you were close enough to hear him say, "Meta, start recording." Otherwise you wouldn't have known. Wow, we see Apple now negative, Microsoft now negative, Amazon now negative, Meta now negative. We do see Tesla bouncing up above 340 here. We see Nvidia holding above 137. We do know, again, I'm going to point out 141 is the number that Nvidia has been really unable to get across and hold recently. So that's the line to keep an eye at. Again, 141 there. Apple's been a little bit more different. It's been about that 250 level. 250 has been knocking it down on a repetitive basis too. So we've seen these, the Mag 7, and Apple's a great one to look at to point this out. It's been in this sort of repetitive pattern over the last couple of weeks, right, Steve? It made the move up, dropped it all the way back down, and now it's making the move up again. My question is, will we actually see Nvidia push us back up to these highs around 260, or do we see that same pattern that we have seen where we get knocked down day after day? And what you'll see is QQQ really, I pointed that out a couple of weeks ago, how it had been in this pattern, and you can see that pattern is still playing out. We made the move up this month. Over the weekend, we came back, did it again. Over the weekend, came back down, did it again. And we're seeing that same exact pattern work out.
Well, I will say this,
setting higher highs.
If you're asking about Apple, is an interesting story about a year ago on Apple when they were building Apple quote intelligence, and I really made fun of Apple Intelligence because it still is stupid. Why are you calling it AI Apple Intelligence? Right? It's dumb, and it hurt them. And of course, they have been floundering over Apple Intelligence over the last year. And guess what they've finally done this weekend? They're going to add Google's Gemini. And that's what I'm saying. Like, look, if you can't beat them, join them and integrate them. That's what Apple has done.
I think that they're all being smarter this time, and you could tell me maybe differently, but what I'm seeing is that each of the search engines, each of the AIs coming out are incorporating the other ones in their offerings to avoid antitrust suits.
Correct. And it's smart. That's what I've said. Right. You can take all of these AIs, crunch it and put it together, and we make a better AI. Hell yes. I think that's exactly what we should be doing. And
we are seeing that across a few of them that are being smart and including this integration. I think it's going to be important, especially for the Googles, the Microsofts. If you want to have a browser that's still important, then you need to have options. I want to be able to see what Perplexity says. I want to see what ChatGPT says, and I want it all through your platform. So work together and figure it out.
That's why we build Quasar Markets, right? Is to have everything.
Interesting one. Biggest mover so far up. Number one, you're Nike, so I think you're going to be in trouble tomorrow. Now just broke 80.48, broke the resistance I was looking at. So I don't know if they're going to tell you need to find a new one. I will vouch for you that you had it. I know you did. You've had it up on our Slack at the end of last week. You put it, but it is moved far away here at 80.49 here. Broke resistance. This is where I'd be following it. I want to see it hold this 200-day MA. So I guess that's me. Would that be where you change in your reference though? Is it's made the move, but I want to see it hold 200-day MA and maybe get another bounce from there, or do you have to find a new one?
No, I still like Nike. Maybe I should have not said it so much. Right, waited another day.
Yeah, you spooked everybody into buying, Steve. I tried to talk it down for you. I wasn't able to, but it broke through.
It's funny.
Those of you in Nike here, I'd be watching it at 81.22. 81.22 is going to be your big resistance here. It's the spot it got rejected at on December 6th. And you can see it's a spot that it struggled in the past. So this is a spot it's getting towards. I will tell you, I was watching it, that 79.43, it blew right through it, though. Steve, I wanted to point out, actually, that the other big leader here, NCLH, the cruise ships, are bouncing back. They've got earnings tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, not today. Thursday, not even there.
Thursday,
so a little surprised on that move up. I don't see any news. Let me check here, see if any news is hitting this. Not seeing any news. NCLH, I know you've been a fan on a bounce back on these cruise lines. Are you still a bounce back player on those, Steve?
Let me ask you a question. If a company's falling apart, why would they make new cruise ships, right? There's a new ship. I mean, it's even crazier. It's called Star of the Seas. That's coming out. And there's another one coming
RCL,
out.
Right?
RCL. Yep. Utopia of the Seas is already out. There's this. It's just amazing how many new ships are coming out. I got an email this weekend about another ship that's even bigger than that. I think Legacy of the Seas or something.
What I want to point out there is, Steve, you pointed out that segment of the business was not in trouble last week when you did it. You talked about they were pushing some discounted cruises your way.
That's right.
Which concerned you a little bit, but you can see this sector bouncing back tremendously after getting beat up for 2 days. Analysts took the weekend, took a look at it, and are deciding what Steve said right off the bat. These are ones to keep an eye on. So all three of them moving up here over the weekend.
NVIDIA 138, Howard, back almost. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like, stick to this is thesis trading. If your thesis hasn't changed, there's no reason to sell. And I'm still long QQQ. I'm not nervous about QQQ. I think we're good.
I will say Tempest AI had been down again tremendously in the morning hours, bouncing back here nicely back at 72. It did almost a full retrace to where it consolidated back in the beginning of the month. So done a nice move. Trying to see what else is moving tremendously here. Here's one for you, Steve. I wasn't that familiar with this company. I did a little bit of research this morning on it. They are the largest cell phone provider in Africa.
Vodafone, yes, of course. Vodafone and Orange, the other one. I think Vodafone is an opportunity for a company to take advantage of the M&A. They do have a large Africa presence. Vodafone has a larger presence in Europe too, as well. And that's why the Africa thing.
Well, they're a South African-based company. Also.
Correct. Yeah. I think the other one I think you could look at is Orange as well.
Orange Cloud Technology.
Yeah, it's ORANY there. And right now, I think the stock's up 1% here. If you look at it from the perspective of maybe there you go. That's Orange Blood Technology. It's ORANY. It's an OTC company. There you go. Yeah. It should be around $11, something like that. $11.62 share. Yeah, that's it right there. I think that this is another one. Vodafone and Orange are the two that I think I like if you're looking at some kind of a telecommunications company there. Oop, I see a pop there. Okay. And people are listening, I guess. Look, I think when you look at it from that perspective, they're in France. They're a French company, right? And France has a large contingency in Africa. And I think that's, these two are the main ones that make the biggest plays in the African continent. So if you're looking at that, those two right there are the Vodafone and Orange. I do like both of those.
Nice.
138.40 now on NVIDIA. Those of you who listened in and did not get scared and stuck to the guns, There you go. You're doing okay
Tick
today.
is still moving down 374 here right now. Advanced decline, continuing decline, now down 680. Lows of the day so far. VIX has picked back up now about a percentage point at 1841. QQQ holding on slightly to the green. SPY a little bit better at 15 basis points. The RUT has moved negative here, so we're starting to see that. Bitcoin is struggling to hold. It is holding 95K so, but struggling to do so. Gold holding up nicely. It did drop off from the all-time highs, about $20 here, but doing nice. Oil has sort of calmed down, Steve. Do you expect to see that remain? I mean, it's been pretty mellow here for a bit.
Trying to stay over the 30. Trying to stay over the 70 handle here. The futures, I should say. Look, oil is oil. It's going to do its thing for a little while. I think oil holding at 70 is about where it's at, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and we've seen volatility has dropped down in January. It's been about $3 price range this month. It was $4 last month, $5.50 in November. So we do see a little bit of a tightening up there in the spreads. I did notice that WTI is closed a little bit. It's now within about $4 of Brent. So we're seeing a little bit of a close there. And that spread also. Wow, Alibaba now down at 9.34% here. As I mentioned, I am a liker of that 124.50 level here if it gets down that far. So one I'd be interested in, one of the few Chinese companies that I trust, so to speak, on a bigger basis. CrowdStrike getting hit again, Steve, today, down at 2.87%. Does this ever get interesting to you?
We always need security on our phones, security in our servers. Maybe, but I don't know yet. Not yet. I get the 200-day moving average. I get all that. People clean the chart.
Way down. 200 days still 60 away from it. I'm more watching here where it peaked up. That was former resistance here in mid-December, and where it hit support here February 3rd is going to be a key spot to watch. So keep an eye as it approaches 387.25. Any breakdown below that puts a huge drop in play, maybe even down to that 345 level. So any drop below here, that 50-day MA and that 387.25 would definitely be a negative on CrowdStrike and would probably cause more of a downside here to keep an eye on. Another one getting hit, Carvana today, continuing to slide since their earnings report. They had good earnings, but as you said, forward guidance was weak, and they're pulling back here again. I've already put my target there. 188.77 is what I'm targeting to the downside. It's at 215 right now, so it's still got a ways to go. But once it lost this support here at the 222 level, there isn't a whole bunch below it, like I said, until you get to this area where it traded a lot in mid-October.
It's got red here. I'm not liking this here.
Yeah, market's definitely turning over here. Without a doubt, we'll see if we can get some pickup in the afternoon. I do think if we go a little negative, it's going to spook people today. So I'd be a little nervous here. I do think after the Friday drop, retail traders, I don't think institutions worried. I'm not worried.
No,
I know you're not
buying.
No. I wanted to point that out. But what I do think is that you'll see retail will do it. Ron pointed out that Berkshire went up. I have a whole segment that I'm going to do on Berkshire later today and film thing. I've got, I went through Mr. Buffett's stuff in huge detail, all of the stuff that he's sort of got going on there. Interesting. The first takeaway I'll have there, he did announce that Greg Abel will be succeeding him as CEO. So people, Charlie Munger was the guy up. He passed away. Greg Abel is a little bit younger, but by a little bit, he's in his 60s. So we're not going.
Greg has been groomed at Berkshire Hathaway for about 22 years now. And the other girl there runs the other side of. There's two people that will be running Berkshire Hathaway, but Greg will be making the biggest calls. And in fact, let's be honest. I mean, even Warren said it in the letter a couple times that Greg's been making the calls anyway, especially getting all the cash out. So he's been there for a while, and I think he continues to. He has the helm already. I think at this point, Warren is just a figurehead at this point.
Really? I don't know about that, but we'll see. I mean,
it's been that way for a while. I mean, there's anybody that follows Warren Buffett since literally, I have done it since the mid 80s. I have there's a picture of me and Warren on the wall up there. There's autographs from Warren to me, and I'll tell you that I keep my eye on what's going on in Omaha. I've actually ate at his Gorat's at his restaurant nearby him. And I'll tell you that Greg Abel has been running Berkshire Hathaway almost now for about 3 or 4 years now.
Nice. Well, and he had a lot of notes there that were interesting for me. My biggest takeaway, I don't think that people realize, is they don't make short-term investments at all.
Yeah.
At all. He is a long-term investor, and that is it. So I had some interest.
If you really want to read something deep into the letter, there is something that, as a fan and somebody who respects Warren Buffett and his ways of doing things, he said something that was very interesting, and he wrote it out. It won't be long. He's 94 years old, so I get that. I understand that. But to say it won't be long, that bothered me a little bit in the letter.
Yeah, hopefully there's no issues there for sure. We don't want to see that.
You're dropping here pretty quickly, 4.418% here. Wow, that could help the banks here.
Banks have been up all day, so we'll see. Actually, JP Morgan now negative, Morgan Stanley now negative, Goldman Sachs, which was the big earner, just went negative. So, nope. Retail not taking it that way.
There is some issues here. We are breaking down technically a little bit, especially in Bitcoin 94.7 now. There's some issues. Nvidia was at 130, a little over 138 here, 138.60 with 135.80. So $3 in just seconds, right? People are nervous. It's retail, it's zero DTEs. They're getting burnt though. Howard, they really are getting eaten up. And I know that it sucks, and I know that people are nervous, and I haven't seen this much nervousness in a long time. And we are at all-time highs. I get that, but we've been at all-time highs for the last 6 months, so that's nothing new. We continue to make all-time highs. But the shorts are getting a little giddy right now. The Trump, I guess, what we used to call the honeymoon is over, and people aren't happy with what's going on there. And I think what you're seeing right now is a little bit of hangover here, and right now I'm telling you right now, I'm not scared. I'm buying. I like buying dips. It's what makes me happy. I want to be the ticker taker, and makes me happy. So I'm not too concerned about it. Yeah, I think we're good.
Nice. It did bounce off the 50-day MA there a little bit, but QQQ still negative, down about 35 basis points. SPY's gone negative. Dow is holding up, so the Dow component holding up, down 48 basis points. As Steve said, Bitcoin broke below 94. Gold, 29.40. It's holding steady in that area. It seems to struggle to get across 29.50 and hold. Comes down from that level. Let's see what is moving up here. Man, not a lot. Bank of America up about 0.5 point. Berkshire is up 1.8%. They have earnings. It matters what day you ask ChatGPT, but they are on Wednesday. But they have given me 5.
Getting closer to 19 there. Yeah.
Brown-Forman up 1.72% here, Steve. So we talked about it. You like them as a company the other day. I'm a big fan. They are still moving up. Looks like they might want to try to close this gap here.
2 best times to buy alcohol: when things are really bad, when things are really good. If you think the world's really bad, then there you go.
They did close that gap here, so you could see this move more to the upside here. Nice little play by Brown-Forman in this level. I do like that. As we said, Berkshire up 3% now. Man, and again, it's the difference between pre-market and money markets have been huge lately. CEG was up this morning. They're now down 5%. Coinbase was up this morning, now down 2.34%. CrowdStrike, man, now down 4.5%. Carvana down 4.33%. Foot Locker down 2.47%. GitLab down 3.8%. Intel down 2.29%. JD down 7.59%. So it is mostly red. One's going the other way. Nike, as Steve mentioned, up 80.48 here. Tried to get up to that 81.18 already. Look at that move, Steve. Wow. It is getting sold off, though. Again, Palantir now down 9.68%.
Well, it tells you one thing, that money's coming out of technology and going into value stocks. So there it is.
Yeah, I might start to put a wish list order in sort of at this 83 level here and see if Palantir gets down there, 83.50 maybe. It could head down to that level. So we'll see what we get there. SMCI continuing to get hit here, down another 5% this morning. Snowflake down 4.78%. So we continue sliding to the downside. Booz continuing to move to the upside. TAP A, which is Molson Coors, up about 6.28% here. Surprised by that big of a move up, to be honest with you.
NVIDIA about to go red here, 134. I don't like that.
Wow,
that move.
Tesla broke below that 330 support that I was buying at last week here. So another one to keep an eye on. Be careful here for downside. Looks like it might bounce at this level. This is about where it hit the other day on the 11th. So we'll keep an eye. But, unlike it, I thought this might have a W set up, as I pointed out on Palantir also. They might just be another step down here. So be wary there, traders. We are still not seeing it. Tick's gone down 500 more. Advanced decline now, Steve, negative 2,124. So there is blood in the streets again today.
Nah.
Wow, that didn't take long.
Nah, there's no blood in the streets. Come on, man. This is nothing. This is like we call this a Monday. Oh, it's a Monday, man. No, I'm not too scared about this. Let it happen. Look, institutions are smiling all the way to the bank because they've got cash. They're ready to go. And this is what's happening, right? And this is why. I mean, Warren Buffett. I think maybe Warren Buffett spooked the markets a little bit. It could be true, but no, this isn't bothering me at all. In fact, I think we bounced right back up. Actually, there's another buying opportunity here, to be honest with you.
We'll see how that plays out today. I do think sentiment's at an all-time low here, which means we usually see the bounce come out of nowhere, right? Everybody's got their fishing rods on the short side right now. Like you said, dipping a toe, maybe throwing a rod over long here might not be a bad position, but it does look a little weak so far. I do see our main man, Stephen Flanagan, has entered the room. Let's get him on here and find out what's going on in the world of currencies. Mr. Flanagan, how was your weekend, sir?
Yeah, weekend was good, and I hope you guys had a good weekend. And Warren Buffett, well, we got Steve Orr. Who cares?
That's right. I love it. I love it.
I don't know about all that, but okay.
So, Mr. Flanagan, I know we were centered on what was going to happen in Germany. It's played out. Doesn't seem to have moved the DXY very much because it sort of seems that it's been a little bit of a mixed bag, right?
Well, that's right. DXY closed Friday at 106.61, and we're sitting right here around the 106.70 level. So slightly higher, which I'm taking away, comes in as a positive. We have seen a low down at 106.13. Yep. So we're kind of below that 50 level that I was indicating, but we've, gravitated back up here, which I think is a good thing. As far as the elections go, kind of just like the polls were showing. CDU, CSU, which is the coalition, the conservative, let's call it the center right.
Yeah, I called it the moderates. I like.
Yeah, they came out with 28.5%, a little bit lower than the 30% that people were hoping for. But the real story is the AFD, which is what they are calling the ultra right. But it's the populist movement. They came in. It looks like they're going to be just under 21%, so slightly higher than their polling. And the SPD, which is the ruling party that had been in, is around 16.5. Net, the one thing I take away is that you're going to have a grand coalition now, which is probably going to be the new center right and the center left. What is that? Oh, come on. That's boring. It's what's been in place in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. You got no big mandate. I think people
I disagree a little bit there. I think the big mandate is that the AFD doubled their 2021 turnout. And they've doubled it, which was 10.5% then, and here you are around the 21%. So that to me is the bigger takeaway. I posted on my
But they're still
Twitter
going to be
page.
left out. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're left out. They're not part of the
Well,
coalition. The Mertz has made it clear he's not dealing with them. So I don't know that it did. I think the mandate might have been there, but it wasn't enough to push the government in that way.
and that's what I'm trying to say is that it's the same old government back in power. If they don't get things turned around, the number 2 party is just sitting in the wings. I posted on my Twitter a very interesting map of the turnout in this election. So when did the East Germany, West Germany unite? Early 90s, right? Well, the map right now is pretty much the exact same thing. East Germany, overwhelming AfD support, and West Germany made up the coalitions that's out there. So very interesting. I don't think anything changes. The needle hasn't moved. So what it does is it sets up, very much like Italy, it sets up this AfD party if things don't change. So it's a big week ahead. You've got a lot of things coming out. Just so happens that after the election in Germany, now you get the GDP to come out, which is expected to come out in negative territory. So had that come out last week, that could have had a little bit more implication.
Absolutely. What else are you watching this week so far, Mr. Flanagan?
Well, I actually am looking at the euro dollar and the sterling. So sterling is attracting a high interest rate because people are saying that Europe is not going to, sterling is not going to move lower on rates very quickly, presently at 4.75%. That is probably going to attract some investment income just to park money and earn a higher rate. We have March 6th, the ECB next week coming up. They're expected to cut again from the 2.75, putting them down at 2.5. So I coincide that looking at a euro dollar chart. If I could navigate here, I'll try to share my euro dollar.
Sure. This sell-off is just getting bigger and bigger. NASDAQ now down 200 points here in the futures.
Yeah, and I think we're waiting for some decent news out of the U.S. What the heck is the U.S. going to do here on the budget? So if I look at the euro dollar, I've got multiple tops in back to December at 105.50. My RSIs are turning right here. I coincide this with the dollar index, where I do think that we could see the dollar index bottom out here. I'm watching very carefully now some levels in the dollar index. Friday's close was 106.61. I think if we get above a 106.80, I'm kind of looking for the whole boat to change here. I am looking for a dollar index back in around a 107.40. If we begin to get in that territory, watch the euro dollar. I think we're putting ourselves in very good selling interest here. And sterling is also topping out. While it has put a top in at 126.90, we're beginning to ebb lower here. So I like the dollar index right now. I think that that's my play. I'm going to let today, being the Monday, pan out. And I am looking for some positive news, or let's say some momentum in the U.S. on this budget talks.
That would definitely help. I think that is one of the big things holding everything back is, we haven't gotten much positive news on the movement on the budget and sort of getting that settled out, right?
That's right. And, we want to throw back in the dollar yen. It's the safe haven currency. Dollar yen roughly around the 149.60 level. Again, what is dollar yen? It's actually lower now, 35. As you can see, equities coming lower. Money quickly moves right into the yen as that safe haven because Japan is turning the corner and people are looking at the yen as a, if we did bounce 152, 153 could be about a top. But long yen is the play people want to have, and it is representing, I don't know where to go. I'm going to put my money in the yen. It is a low interest rate currency, but it's got the most potential for appreciation out there if we factor out the dollar. So I'm watching that yen carefully. equity market weakness or instability within the world, it's immediate move into the yen. That's why I always highlight money moves first. Keep that dollar yen on your screens here.
Absolutely. If it breaks below that 148.82 here, do you think it really drops, or do you think that's, you know, that it doesn't see that volatility?
Well, we did call 148.80, 149.20 as the bottom. I'm going to hold to my thoughts on that. I don't think we could get much lower, but breaking a 148.70 is going to perhaps bring in a lot of stop loss selling.
That's
as
what I was
the market is
wondering.
trying to catch up. Remember, the world is short yen because of the carry trade from a historical point of view. So dollar yen Achilles heel is when it breaks the technical support zones to the downside.
Right.
So a break of 148.70, I would say, could indicate a slippery slide. As you can see on that chart right there, it has, you know, a significant gap down to, you know, significant 145.
Yeah, you're looking maybe 146, you know, where it hit here in September as being maybe a little support, but that's what I was curious there, if it would trigger, if you thought it would trigger the stop losses. I will say again, Buffett talked about, you know, his love of Japan and his increased you know, into the Japanese market. Again, he just pointed it out that, you know, they increased their stake in the 5 major Japanese companies: Itochu, Marubeni, Mitsubishi, Mitsu, and Suminoto. So he is definitely still long Japan, while others might not be, right?
He's still long Japan, and he's adding to it.
Yeah.
And that goes with what I'm trying to say here. Japan is the place, if you're looking out, and Warren Buffett looks out. Let's face, for those of us who know Warren Buffett from his early days, he had a sip of Coca-Cola, liked it, and bought 5% of the company.
Yeah.
You know? So,
And Dairy Queen bought the company.
Yeah.
You know, I have to laugh when you said that. I never noticed that Coke doesn't do splits basically either. They follow Mr. Buffett. I saw that, you know, they're at $1,000 and something today when I was looking at it. Here it is, 103.6, right? 1,356.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see
following
that.
up on our Friday.
Consolidated. If you look at KO, the actual stock. There you go.
Why do they have that as a ticker then?
Coke is a consolidated. That's the international version. KO is the actual Coke on the New York Stock Exchange.
You know, following up on our Friday conversation about a long-term or short-term investment strategies that you need to have, you know, here is the classic long-term investment strategy, you know. So, yes, he's buying the yen and he's investing more. He's been doing that probably over the last year. And so, you know, this is the type of strategy that you want to look out towards the horizon. And that's exactly what I would reinforce. I see that the dollar yen will be moving into a protracted, longer term move lower, as the yen is quite appealing at present levels.
Absolutely. There hasn't been, I was surprised. There wasn't a ton of big movement across the currency markets, like we said over the weekend. Biggest mover I really saw was the peso.
Well, that's right. The, you know, Mex peso is at 20.47. Still a weakening economic situation in Mexico outside of tariff talks and all the rest of that. The domestic, they've cut rates 0.5% the last time, last week. They're now at 9.5%. And the economic numbers coming out are not conducive of high rates at this level. So dollar mex is something. Watch 2088 on the top side. That's the level we want to. What if we get above that? We're going to start surging back into some, you know, uncharted. Now, when the tariff talk came out, we blew up through that level into the 121 mid levels, and you know, it's safe to say that if the economics continue to deteriorate, and if we're moving into my April-May king dollar scenario, dollar mex is going to trade up into those zones again.
Nice.
NVIDIA just went green again. We bounced off that bottom there.
I think, you know, the stocks, equities, currencies, they're all doing the same thing. We want concrete data now.
Yeah.
Next up is NVIDIA earnings, but more importantly, in the macro landscape, what is the U.S. going to do on this budget? You know, we're rapidly approaching the D-Day on, you know, the debt ceiling. You know, what is there any coalition here, or is it going to be strictly party lines, which is politics as normal? And that's not a good thing. We want to see some sort of, you know, blending of the parties and at least doing something along this America First agenda that was so popular today.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It seems to me, Steve, that this is a big shakeout, and that the institutions are trying to shake out the retail right now. Would you say that's kind of the case?
Yes, Stephen, I would say your currency markets are exactly. We peaked above 110 in the euro, in the dollar index, and ever since it's been coming down. And yes, that's exactly. Everybody started off with a dollar strong strategy, and everybody's bleeding out of this strategy. In fact, I saw a number of headlines talking about, is this the year where the dollar really, you know, drops and declines? I would have to say, I don't think so. I think we're at a point where the shakeout is just about concluded. It always gets darkest before the dawn, right?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. You know, I'm looking at the markets in general, and there was some shakeout here over the weekend with the options, and I think people are just confused. I think that's, to me, is the biggest. They're nervous, they're confused, and they're just like, well, you know what? If I don't know what to do, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines. And that's what I mean, if you think about it, that's what Warren Buffett's doing. A big cash pile, sitting on the sidelines going, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to sit on the sidelines. You know, and they don't like sitting on the sidelines because cash makes no money. It actually loses money, right? So they must be very nervous then.
And there's a lot of criticism from people that are beginning to say, you know, what's up? I'm not paying you fees to be sitting long cash.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
we are seeing QQQ bounce back, SPY bouncing back. Both are about in the middle of their daily trading range so far. So it is good to see that start to bounce back here, especially on the short-term chart. You can see bottomed out the QQs here at about 520, bounce back up to 523.57. Same thing on the SPY. About the same time, we started bottom out at about 596.50. Has retraced to 599. So it does look like we are seeing some buyers pull back in. Tick has gone positive the last few minutes. We're seeing advanced decline trying to move back up, not doing as well. We'll say VIX is now approaching 19 here. So we are seeing a move up by the VIX too.
And if you notice what's happening, dollar index following right behind that, you're now back at 106.66. So we're sitting just 6 points above Friday's close at 106.60. And that's the level I'm using here. I'm looking at Friday closes into today. You could probably apply this to equities as well. But in the currency world, I'm looking Friday close and seeing if we can gravitate Monday at higher. If that happens, to me, that sets the stage. I think by Friday, we're going to see a significantly higher dollar.
Okay.
Yep, I agree.
So it was funny you said that, because I was looking at that same type of scenario on the opposite side on the yen, where we hit that same low that we hit yesterday as being a little concerning there. So it looks like the same thing you're saying on the DXY. I was noticing it on the opposite side on the yen, that, you know, if you break below it, that's what has me a little nervous here, is that, you know, we hit that spot, we wicked up, we hit that spot, we wicked up. So we got to see it actually close above that level.
Hey, I don't want to. I got a bunch of yen in my pocket. I want to go put it back in the dollar. I mean,
you know, Steve, I don't think you're going to get much above a 152, 153 on any retracement. That gives us an opportunity to get back or add to your yen, because that's really interesting. Friday, we have the Tokyo CPI. Well, that'll be actually Thursday night our time, but Friday morning Japan. It was previous at 3.4. They are looking for it to be a little bit lower, but still well above the 2% level. Now, in Japan, we have to kind of inverse this relationship. Higher inflation is good, considering the Bank of Japan has fought deflation for 25 plus years. So if that number comes up in the 3% zone, that's another plus factor to the yen that I'm looking at. Friday also is your US PCE. But it is a slew of numbers that are out all around the world. So Friday could be one of those days where.
What do you think, Steve, is the biggest number that everybody's looking at right now? I still think it's Nvidia's earnings, but you know, I think it's going to trump everything. But am I wrong on that?
No, I think Nvidia's earnings is Where are we in this world? Everybody's talking about that's it, they're done. Now we're going to look. Let's look at it this way. Good results come out on earnings in the tech sector and they slam the stocks. So that's the characteristic that's in the market today. So let's watch. If good earnings come out, do they try to slam the stock? I think the market is well positioned short right now.
Right.
And I think that if the news comes out and shows good earnings and good forecasts, I think you're not going to see that. And that means the characteristic has changed. And I think that Wednesday out into Thursday, Friday, you're going to see the markets rally strong.
Yeah, I think you're right. If NVIDIA comes out with good guidance after when the CEO talks, I think you're going to catch these shorts really red-handed, and they're going to have to cover fast. And I think there might be some crying in the short world here.
Right, exactly, Stephen. Throwing into my dollar scenario with the euro making up such a big part of the dollar index, on Thursday you have consumer confidence within the Eurozone, and that's expected to come in minus 13%. So, another factor that's going to affect the euro dollar. So you got to keep your powder dry this week, and you got to have patience, and you've got to be marking and looking for those opportunity levels to step into the market.
Agreed.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Flanagan. We appreciate it like always. Guys, we are back today. We have a busy day. We got Dr. Alan Ellman on at 11. We have Agnieszka Wood on at 12 o'clock. We have Prosper Trading on at 1 o'clock. And then I'm back at 2 o'clock with Charlie Moon. I'm going to see if I can get him to talk a little bit about Warren Buffett. I'm still going back and forth. He's in traveling, so we're going to see if we can get him. And then we're going to go from there. So we got a busy day on Quasar Markets, everybody. Good trading out there. And Mr. Flanagan, we'll see you on Wednesday.
See you guys.